Hello, Christ is in our midst. I'm Father Kevin Long of St. Elias Antiochian Orthodox Church in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today is Saturday, August 29th, 2020, and here are the readings for today. The first reading is from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verses 25 through 33. In those days, as John was finishing his course, he said, "What do you suppose that I am? I am not he. No, but after me one is coming, the sandals of whose feet I am not worthy to untie. Brethren, sons of the family of Abraham, and those among you that fear God, to us has been sent the message of this salvation, for those who live in Jerusalem and their rulers, because they did not recognize him, nor understand the utterances of the prophets, which are read every Sabbath, fulfilled these by condemning him. Though they could charge him with nothing deserving death, yet they asked Pilate to have him killed. And when they had fulfilled all that was written of him, they took him down from the tree and laid him in a tomb. But God raised him from the dead. And for many days he appeared to those who came up with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are now his witnesses to the people. And we bring you the good news that what God promised to the fathers, this he has fulfilled to us, their children, by raising Jesus." And the Gospel today is from the Gospel of St. Mark, chapter 6, verses 14 through 30. At that time Herod the king heard about the fame of Jesus, for his name had become known. He said, "John the Baptizer has been raised from the dead, and that is why these powers are at work in him." But others said, "It is Elias." And others said, "It is a prophet, like one of the prophets of old." But when Herod heard of it, he said, "John, whom I beheaded, has been raised." For Herod had sent and seized John, and bound him in prison for the sake of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife, because he had married her. For John said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." And Herodias had a grudge against him, and wanted to kill him. But she could not, for Herod feared John, knowing that he was a righteous and holy man, and kept him safe. When he heard him, he was much perplexed, and yet he heard him gladly. But an opportunity came when Herod on his birthday gave a banquet for his courtiers and officials and leading men of Galilee. For when Herodias' daughter came in and danced, she pleased Herod and his guests. And the king said to the girl, "Ask me for whatever you wish, and I will grant it." And he vowed to her, "Whatever you ask me, I will give you, even half of my kingdom." And she went out and said to her mother, "What shall I ask?" And she said, "The head of John the Baptizer." And as she came in immediately with haste to the king and asked, saying, "I want you to give me at once the head of John the Baptist on a platter." And the king was exceedingly sorry, but because of his oaths and his guests, which he did not want to break his word to her. And immediately the king sent a soldier of the guard and gave orders to bring his head. And he went and beheaded him in prison, and brought his head on a platter, and gave it to the girl, and the girl gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard of it, they came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. The apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. There are a lot of things that we could talk about regarding what happens in this story. We can talk about how Christ himself earlier in the gospel said that John was the greatest man ever to have been born. We could talk about how John completely consecrated his life to God, and how his death just brings about this ultimate in how pathetic things are and how futile things are, because he died because of the lusts of a man. We could talk about those things, but instead what I want to talk about is oaths. We have a tendency to make oaths. I will do this, or I will do that, and then you see yourself bound to the oath. Look at what this particular situation did. Herod sees the dancing of the daughter of his wife, his brother Philip's wife, Herodias, and he is so inflamed with passions that he makes this ridiculous oath, thinking, well, she'll want material wealth, she'll want property, she'll want something along the lines of that. But because of the vendetta that her mother had against John the Baptizer, she returns and says, "Well, I want you to do the thing you were afraid to do." And because he made the oath, and because he didn't want to look bad in front of others, he had to do the deed. He had to remove the head of John the Baptist. How often do we make oaths? The question is, should we make them at all? Our Lord, in many places, and also found in the Epistle of St. James and elsewhere, says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You don't have to make any oaths. You don't have to make any, you don't have to be someone who says, I stand by my word, because God is God. And what God expects from us is to do what we are called to do. Our words mean nothing. Our oaths mean nothing if God doesn't make them mean something. This is something I think we have a hard time with. We want to be people of integrity, and we want to be people of honor and things such as that. But our actions are what testify to that. Our deeds are what testify to that, not our oaths. We should make no oath to no human being. We should make no solemn swearing or anything like that to any human being. We should just simply be a person whose life is consistent with the life of a Christian, and somebody whose word is only meant to edify and uplift, but the actions are what are the testifying or the testimony of the very things that we utter. We need to be very cautious with our oaths, because there are times when we make those kinds of oaths, and yet we must break them because some circumstance, most likely put there because of God, gets in the way and causes us to have to break that oath. Because when we make an oath to a human being, it is a thing of this world. It is not a thing that belongs to God. You don't swear to God. And I know that sounds odd, but it's important that we remain flexible, because God breaks the inflexible. God makes those people go into circumstances and events that cause them to lose their faith in things that are contrary to God himself. We are not an idolatrous people. We don't value anything more than we value God. And so even in the things that we swear to others, we need to be very, very cautious. If we are not cautious, then things like what happened in this morning's gospel will continue to occur. Intending to deliver on an oath one thing, but having to do something else that forever changes the way that things are in the world. So let your yes be yes, let your no be no, and let your activities, the things that you do, be reflective of the people who we are, not our oaths, and not our vows, but merely the fruits of our love for Jesus Christ. Well, may God bless you and keep you, you and your family, always, today and forever. And I pray that God will give you a great day, and God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.